Neocolonialism is a development of capitalism where capitalist powers, both countries and corporations, dominate a subject nation through the operations of international capitalism rather than by direct rule. And the African nations that borrow from China prefer China as a lender to Western nations exactly because China does not engage in neocolonialism. China has no interest in controlling the policy of the African nations that borrow from it. And that's best summed up by the Kenyan official who said, every time China visits, we get a hospital, whereas every time Britain visits, we get a lecture. Now, that is grossly oversimplifying the issue. There are reasons to be concerned about China's presence in these African nations, such as the impact on the environment, the impact on local residents, and whether these Chinese organizations are providing the job and business opportunities to local citizens so that they're setting these nations up for long-term self-sufficiency and not just constant debt. Nevertheless, no Asian leader has ever gone anywhere in Africa, declared themselves king and owner of all of the local residents, and then enacted such a horrific authoritarian regime that it resulted in reducing the local population by half. China is not sponsoring coups or assassination attempts against democratically elected African leaders, and China is not even conditioning its lending upon the ability to control policy of these African nations. And really, all I need to do to prove both your statements wrong is to point to the 15 Asian and African member and partner nations to BRICS. Now, feel however you might about BRICS, nations that are colonizing other nations do not invite the nations that they are colonizing to a seat at the table of power. And those are 15 Asian and African nations that are seeking an alternative to Western-dominated geopolitical order. Now, if we use our critical thinking skills, it should go without saying that Asians in Asia do not talk as much about white supremacy as Asian Americans, because Asians who live in Asia are not living in a white supremacist society. But there are hardly any Asian countries who are happy about their histories with Western colonialism and continued interference. Western imperialists go to China, China winds up with the First and Second Opium Wars. Chinese come to the United States, and the United States gets its railroads built. White GIs go to Asia, Asian countries wind up with a horribly abusive and exploitative sex tourism problem. Black GIs go to Asia, and we wind up with amazing music and food. Oh, and by the way, migrant and immigrant mean two different things, and while a person certainly can be both, the words are not interchangeable.